our commitment to internal democracy, a principle which we must never compromise, because it is Leninism to allow all party members to engage on the tactical questions and planning of the movement and to engage on the election of party leadership. It does not matter whether democracy goes in our favor or not, but our commitment should be to democracy. Be honest in your discussions and revolutionary in your approach, and avoid at all times the temptation to fall into the traps of liberalism. In closing, I want to share with you the key principles to avoid an organizational decay and to avoid allowing liberal tendencies to inspire you as delegates of the EFF. And these are the 11 points on combating liberalism as developed by Mao Zedong of China. Liberalism fighters manifest itself in the following ways, and we must always strive to avoid practicing it. To let things slide for the sake of peace and friendship when a person has clearly gone wrong. This means that when a person is your friend, even when they are doing wrong, you allow them to do wrong because you want peace. And refrain from principal argument because it's an old acquaintance, a fellow townsman, a schoolmate, a close friend, a loved one, an old colleague, or old subordinate. You cannot keep quiet in the organization even when the wrong is done by your wife or the husband who's a fellow member. A wrong is wrong even when committed by the loved one. Or to touch on the matter lightly instead of going into it thoroughly, so as to keep on good terms. The result is that both the organization and the individuals you are protecting are going to be harmed. To indulge in irresponsible criticism in private instead of actively putting forward one suggestion to the organization. At the corners, you speak very bad about the organization. In private, you speak very bad about the organization. In private houses and functions where we are not present, you speak very bad of the organization. To say nothing to people, to their faces, but to gossip behind their backs, or to say nothing at a meeting, but to gossip afterwards. To show no regard at all for the principle of collective life, but to follow one's own inclination. This is a second type of unacceptable tendency. To let things drift if they do not affect one personally. So if you are not personally affected, you just allow things to pass, yet you say you love the organization. To say as little as possible while knowing perfectly well what is wrong. To be worldly wise. Worldly wise means you speak in tongues and not very clear where you stand, because you play safe and seek only to avoid a blame. Never avoid a blame. Take a position. Not to obey orders, but to give pride of place to one's own opinions. When the leadership says to you, this is the direction we are taking, even after a thorough debate, because you think your own individual opinion is superior to that collective wisdom, you disobey the collective wisdom. To demand special consideration from the organization, but to reject its discipline. To indulge in personal attacks, big quarrels, vent personal spite, or seek revenge instead of entering into an argument and struggling against incorrect views for the sake of unity or progress or getting the work done properly. To hear incorrect views without rebutting them, and even to hear counter-revolutionary remarks without reporting them, but instead to take them calmly as nothing had happened. You sit with people in their rooms, in your own houses, in the suburban areas and they tell you they are going to leave the EFF, and you don't report that counter-revolutionary remarks to the leadership of the EFF and want to be regarded as one of our own. To be among the masses and fail to conduct propaganda and agitation or speak at a meeting or conduct investigation and inquire amongst them, and instead to be indifferent to them and show no concern for their well-being, forgetting that one is a communist and behaving as if one were an ordinary non-communist. It's a reactionary view. To see someone harming the interest of the masses and yet not feel any problem or dissuade or stop him or reason with him, but allow him to continue doing wrong to the community. To work half-heartedly without definite plan or direction. To work perfectionary and muddle along. So long as one remains a monk, one goes tolling the bell. This is a ninth type of a tendency that is unacceptable. To regard oneself as having rendered great service to the revolution. To pride oneself on being a veteran. To disdain minor assignments while being quite unequivocal to major tasks. To be slipshod in work and slack in study. When we say to you, you must go to school, and you refuse to go to school and yet regard yourself as a revolutionary. A revolutionary can never hate education. There is no need to remind us that you are a veteran of the EFF. There is no need to remind us that you started with the EFF in 2013. Your own performance and conduct in the organization will speak for you. You are speaking about it and overemphasizing it because you want to impose yourself on us. To be aware of one's own mistakes and yet make no attempt to correct them. Taking a liberal attitude towards oneself. As Marxists and Leninists and as students of Fanon, let us engage frankly and remain revolutionary and avoid liberalism at all costs. Fighters, the time is now to take a stand. You cannot be neutral at a point when your organization needs you the most. The time is now to stand up and say, not in our names. The time is now that no old man with no track record of doing good to black people can claim that he can unite black people. Only the EFF has demonstrated that it has got capacity